UCCs out there to distract them from unalienable principle. Now, that which is unalienable is not sellable or transferable to another. Means governments are not established to give rights they have no rights to give. Governments are established to secure the pre-existing rights which are rooted in birthright of any national being. Its constitutions and constitution principles are free for free national beings, which is why you understand, like when you look at Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution, you have what we call the diversity of states, both political and union, diversity of citizens, diversity of nationality, etc., because it is for free national beings. This is one of the reasons why their family names are our people. So whatever they bought or sold with the mark or the number of their name, it automatically made them state property under wardship tenures. And under wardship tenures, they would not have to account for age. That's where they got the legal term minority. See, because in the under legal tenures, a female is worthy of or have the capacity of self-governance at the age of 16, 13 to 16, and the male, 16, 18, like that. So now, under wardship tenures or being awarded a state, they don't have to account for the body, the land, or the profits. So this is one of the major reasons why they put overseers amongst our people who were usually given a title of preacher or reverend. They took them into the lodge and they took oaths to Rome to keep us asleep, and then they would pump that black thing on us, Negro, whatever territory we were on, to take us outside the human family, because that would allow them to initiate the Negro Acts, which is actually property, which is why throughout they say the 14th and 15th Amendment is not necessary for the salvation of my people and the citizens, because that's the creation of the artificial person with a corporate entity. And I know that most of you already know who know contracts, know that many of the people that even deal with UCCs don't even know, half of them, not all of them, the distinction. They don't even know that person means corporation. They think it means the natural being born of a mother. Natural person means the natural person born of a mother, because there's two types of persons at law. And so they've tricked the people into contracts on many levels with just them not knowing the distinction of the corporate person from the natural person, and also not knowing that the Civil Rights Act was struck down by the Supreme Court in 1886 is unconstitutional. That has never changed, which is why the Asiatics who keep voting with European names, the CEO of the Democracy Corporation has to sign an act just so they can vote, because they're using names that don't belong to them. In these little subtleties, and yet you'll find people amongst us will be telling our people that the Civil Rights Act is constitutional, or that's part of the Constitution. But a child would recognize if the president has to keep signing this every 20 years or so, that can't be constitutional. And if it were, they would have to call a constitutional convention. Now, a child can figure that out, but for some strange reasons, adults can't seem to get that. Two and two just don't make four, because it's not according to their beliefs. And this is the danger of mere belief systems. Now, the deal of it is, Uniform Commercial Codes is, the great thing about Uniform Commercial Codes, as someone who studies it, is because it gives you insight into contract law. Now, what you notice is that most people don't do what you call an in-depth study in contract law. They start looking for opportunities to discharge debt, opportunities to do things like that, and they start running with it. Now, let me give you a key in law. If a contract is void ab initio, which means anything that, like say for instance, they'll say to us that we're in debt because our mothers sold us, or because our mothers got a marriage certificate and a birth certificate, a marriage certificate and a birth certificate, and they're filed in the Department of Orphans, and it makes us wards of the state, makes us their property, and therefore makes us indebted to them. All right? In the law of contracts, those are dead. They are void ab initio from their construction. Now, the deal of it is when they see that you start waking up, rather than a person who's conscious of law putting out what you would call a disclaimer of power of attorney, a disclaimer of association, a proclamation of proper self and a proclamation that you don't have amnesia, etc. And of course, you have to have a nationality to have a standing in law to make that argument. Appropriate persona sui juris, which means you must be your proper person, or the court automatically has jurisdiction. So if you understand those fundamental things, you would not turn around and use UCCs to create a contract in your proper person to discharge a debt that didn't exist in the first place. Because now they have a contract that you said you discharged the debt. For you to create a legitimate contract to discharge a debt is an admission by its construction that the debt existed. That's what they want. It's clever. You know, a person who knows contract law recognizes that immediately. A person who don't know contract law gets all emotional where they discharge a debt. You ain't discharging debt. Number one, no vital statistics ever give you any original. You give them finance. The fact that you give them the finance declares them the sovereign. The act declares them the sovereign. Because unalienable rights can't be bought or sold. You see what I'm saying? Now, if you create a contract, a UCC contract, because commerce means trade. Look it up in law, right? Now, you take and make an argument on unalienable rights, and then you create a contract based on that unalienable right to discharge a debt that didn't exist in the first place. That's called slave trade. Because you can't take an unalienable right and transfer it to another. See the trick for someone who knows law? How they play the people. Meanwhile, the biggest incomes that the corporate states have right now is people around the country filing UCC 1 liens. That's their biggest income. And as soon as they give them finance, they're claiming him the sovereign. Because the sovereign is supposed to get the payment, not a subject. And if you have no party, if you have no obligation, why are you giving a foreigner, foreign corporation, dealing with foreign currency, fiat, and fraud contract, and he's a thief, and then you're going to ask him and pay him to recognize you when the whole world already recognized you? The problem is you haven't recognized yourself. That's really the issue. You see the problem? So the problem is our people haven't recognized themselves. And this is one of the reasons why years ago we did publish in the paper some of the pictures that we took in the Masonic Lodge in George Washington's great Masonic memorial. Showed them with the Europeans with their fezzes on, with the land here, Morocco, then one with Islam on it, Muslim, one with Irland Bay, which is some of these pictures right here, as an example. You can peep at it. Now it's more, but and what happens is you start telling our people about themselves and they start debating about what their opinions are. And the whole world knows who we are. This is where our problem is. In other words, the reality is that there is no debate. The only debate is with us. We're the only ones out to lunch. We're the only ones catching hell. We're the only ones who our families are being broken up and our babies are dying younger and younger while we debating colors and crayons when the rest of the human family got nationalities. We're the only people that think that, we got light-skinned black girlfriends and light-skinned black leather coats and orange-skinned green people. And, in the rest of the civilized world, look at us like we didn't take our medicine this morning, then we get insulted. We want to fight and burn and march and pray. But the reality is civilized people have nationalities. They honor their mothers and their fathers. You never see someone from China or Korea or any other civilized nation come here talking about where's the light-skinned yellow guy's rights organization. They know that human beings aren't crayons. The only people who think that way is us here. But you can't talk to us because we get sensitive and we want to fight. But the reality, it doesn't make us right just because we're miseducated. So it's important for the people to understand what appropriate persona sui juris is. They need to know status, jurisdictional issues, the broad base of jurisdiction. You got personal jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction, territorial jurisdiction, capacity to adjudicate. And so these fundamentals must be taught to the people before you can talk to them about sovereignty, because what happens is they start putting the cart before the horse, start throwing stuff out there, get a response, and then find that when there's a counterclaim, they can't defend it because they're not properly educated. That's my issue on the UCCs. However, the great advantage of knowing about uniform commercial codes, you need to know the history of it, but is that in the process of trying to divert people from nationality issues, they also expose a lot of things in the process. And if you pay close attention to most times when they give you uniform commercial code package, they don't put it on the front page, but if you pay close attention, somewhere in the context they will say, maybe one line, oh yeah, naturalized. They'll usually say naturalized, not nationalized, but naturalized, because they were as corporate. But it should be a whole dispensation on that part, because the whole point for all that to even qualify, it still must be naturalized. You must be part of a nation.
I'm just going to make one quick comment, and actually led right to it. When he asked the question about UCC nationalization, first thing I thought was, we all know the difference between nationalization and naturalization. That's very, very important, because they sound the same, but they are in fact not. They're very similar. They sound similar, but they're not. And he just went to that in the end. Naturalization. That's not what you do in your own land. Here, that's what a foreigner does. Naturalize. If anybody or any group of Moors from any association wants to naturalize you, that's not correct. And we all, in learning this and coming up, some of us have gone those roads, and realized that's not what it is. Maybe you did it, or had to reverse it and realize what was going on because it was new. And then the only other thing to add is it does make sense. If it's a birthright and it's unalienable, if you know what unalienable means, it means you can't sell it, and it cannot be turned into a crime or a privilege. Your birthright can't be a privilege. So it began saying, I'm gaining my sovereignty and my birthright through a UCC contract, but that can't be so. What you would be doing is committing a commercial act, and therefore actually involving yourself in slave trade, selling yourself. Or maybe your brother or your sister is selling his brother, because he's selling you that package, into slave. And that's what would be happening. So that's all I wanted to add.
Hello? The question is very basic. Some of us don't know what is the UCC. There's a lot of lectures, but I think I'm assuming that most of us know a lot about the Moors, but a lot of us don't. So explain, what is the UCC?
Uniform Commercial Code.
Which means?
He was saying a lot of people have been buying them as packages for their Moorish sovereignty.
Okay.
Now, wait. Uniform commercial codes, as I recall, as I mentioned to you, they became, when you hear UCCs, understand before 1968, they were just commercial codes. They're codes of commerce and trade. The principles are ancient. Now, do you understand that? The principles are ancient. All right. Now, problem. When the Romans took over North America under the colonists, which is the Inca Terra. If anyone has a pencil, paper, please write this down, because but you need to understand what the politics of North America is based on. That's why it's important to know the history, so that we're not talking over your head. Do you understand what I'm saying? And understand what Masonry really is, so we're not talking over your head, because it actually involves the truth about you. And you know, and I know, that most of our people do not associate with themselves. They think Black history is themselves. That's what they're told by the rulers. But the rulers themselves belong to secret societies and learn your real history, and they govern you with knowledge while feeding us distorted history and emotionalism. Now, in order to make